Welcome to The Perfect Balance, where this is the podcast where we discover your symptoms are not the problem, with your hosts, Eva Vennari, Dr. Heather Kneale, and Leslie Brown. Join us as we jump right into this episode. Welcome in. This is The Perfect Balance, where we talk about your symptoms are not the problem. My name is Eva Vennari, founder of the Elevate Institute, and we're going to be talking about food as medicine today, but let's introduce the other two guests here, or hosts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Heather Kneale. I'm co-founder and CEO of Global Nutritional Healing. We offer certificate programs in mineral balancing.
I'm Leslie Brown, creator of the stress relief system for high-achieving men.
And this is one of my favorite topics because people always say, Eva, can't I just eat a healthy, balanced diet and not deal with you at all ever? The short answer is no. And we come to this sentence of the following, and I want to unravel this one. It's no longer a question of if you need to supplement. It's with what and how much and what kind.
Right.
So let's talk about why. Yeah.
Yeah, there's many reasons why. But the biggest one is that to actually move our minerals in our body, we can't do it with food alone. Our food is depleted. I mean, the soils, there's been studies that have shown, I think it was vitamin A was like almost non-existent in some, to get the amount that you would get 50 years ago. You'd have to eat like, I don't remember the amount, but it was like a gargantuan amount, just like, I'm just going to eat tomatoes today because I've got to get my vitamin A, or whatever it is, but, it's these, you just can't. It would be wonderful if we could, but you're not going to get very far.
And I'm making a connection there too. So I think I use this a lot. I say scripturally, it says God made Adam out of dust. And I say that's when the dust had minerals in it.
Yeah.
And I also mentioned this in a previous podcast that we did, but when bodies are cremated, what's left are minerals and toxic metals. That's it. That's what the ashes are made out of, the construct of it. Okay. So we get the minerals out of the dust, we get it out of the ground, which comes into our food. And then either we eat animals that eat those foods that have minerals in it, or we eat the plants that have the minerals, right? And there are charts online you can look at it. It shows that the mineral content of the soil has gone down like this dramatically since the late 50s and early 60s. So that's really a big deal. Where this really came home to me was Luke, my husband, and I were at a cave. We went in a cave in Arkansas, and in the cave they had those big stalactites and stalagmites, and they were all calcium. And there was another vein of magnesium, and you could see the minerals there. And I thought, wow, look at all this stuff that's just several yards below the surface of the earth, the richness of this, because we want people to have calcium, magnesium, different minerals. And they were right there, so you could see them and touch them, but they're not making their way to the surface anymore. So we have to have supplementation to help take care of that. People try and get it in foods, but a lot of the foods are contaminated. I had one client who said, oh, selenium. I read that you can get a lot of selenium out of Brazil nuts. So she's eating 3 Brazil nuts every day. Well, first, you don't know how much selenium you actually need. And it's not that selenium exists on its own. As we had mentioned in an earlier podcast, these minerals are all in relationship with each other. So as Heather just said, oh, I'm going to eat a lot of tomatoes so that I can replenish this, that, or the other thing. But it's not the case. You need quite a variety of foods to help. So food's important, of course. You want good, natural, whole foods that, as close to freshly picked or freshly harvested as possible. But you also have to supplement it. So supplementation is to supplement food. Food is important, but it's not going to replace mineral supplementation. And by any stretch of the imagination, it can't do it. It just can't do it. You may feel better, but it won't bring you into balance in the way that your body needs to effectively work.
Yeah, I used to use, here's more metaphors, me and my stories. So we
love them, Eva, by the way.
I have fun with them because people go, oh my gosh, you've made something very complex seem simple to a relatable item. And people go, oh, I'm just going to start eating salads and eating cleaner food. Okay. So who knows the story of the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
This is a good one. I've heard you tell this. I'm not going to spoil it. It's a good
It took 300 years. I think I went over this on a previous episode, but I think it's poignant right here. The growth rate of our food since the chemical revolution has been expedited. So we don't have the time to actually pull those minerals that Leslie was talking about from the ground into our food. So that's one of the problems. But two, we're building on a shaky ground. The previous episode, we were talking about how you're born with imbalances from mother passed from in the womb. So you're on the sifted ground. Tower of Pisa was built on sand that wasn't compacted. It was filled with water, which makes it very sifty. And that means they started to build it and it went like that. And they stopped building for 100 years after the first 3 levels. And they're like, we probably shouldn't continue this. This is unsafe. And so then somebody 100 years later goes, hey, we can do this. So they added 7 more, they added more stories to it. And they realized, this is going even more. This is the same thing that happens with your body as you're eating nutrient lean. Let's call it nutrient lean foods. Just not enough. There's not enough to keep it stable. Then they quit for another 100 years. And again, somebody smart said, hey, I think we should finish this, And so I'm Italian, I'm allowed.
Yes, yes.
So at the very top, they decided to take the stairs on the right side or on one of the sides, whatever. And so that it was a clear line of sight to be level from the ground, they decided to make the stairs on one side a little higher and on the other side a little less high. So it was level this way, but it was awkward. So the whole thing was out of balance. And that stair stepping thing, that's you trying to fix your entire body of imbalance with salads.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. We have to start from the foundation and rebuild the entire environment. So, and that comes from the depletion. And what's crazy is if you take look at the soil samples that they have now, and you see what's missing in the soil samples, it's exactly the mirror reflection of what's not in our bodies.
Right. We have a downtown farm here in our area that these guys, I mean, they're brilliant farmers. They live in earth houses. They won't have anything electric in the house, no cell phone, no nothing. And they take compost from all over the city. Smart business model. We pay them to pick up our compost. And the composting's phenomenal. So I have a little garden on my own. And this year I grew chard. And I was really thrilled when I got leaves that were maybe about 6 to 9 inches. And I thought, okay, well, I'll harvest them. I looked at theirs. They were almost 3 feet long. I kid you not. And almost, I mean, it looked artificial. They were so beautiful. So the red veins throughout these deep green leaves were just, I mean, they just made my mouth water just to look at them. And I thought, there's a difference in food. And you don't see that kind of stuff at the grocery store either. And you sure didn't see it at my house in my garden. So, so it's going to depend on what that lettuce is being fed with besides, which is something people don't think about. They think, oh, lettuce is lettuce. They don't think of the nutrient. They don't think of the nutrient content, or if it was grown around areas that would draw up toxic metals into the food. You just don't think that way. So food is medicine. You really have to know what you're talking about. I don't happen to care for that expression because I think of medicine as killing stuff off. And I think as food is supposed to be nutrient rich to help our bodies grow into better health. But I know it's a phrase that resonates with people. So that's why we use it too. But knowing your foods, like knowing your supplements or knowing whatever you're putting into your body. And people, that's not even a blip on most people's radar screen. I eat a salad. Good for me.
Yeah. Don't give yourself a bruise. Well, yeah. It's funny because you mentioned that we don't think about the environment in which our food is grown. But you isolate the wine industry, they sure do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You ever read the back of a bottle? Oh, there's blueberries, there's special, the bee honey in this area. Right? So bee honey, I think there's over 110 different flavors of honey. Who knew? Has to do with the flowers. And that's of course mineral content. So why not? Why don't we translate what we know in some areas and some industries to how it affects our body?
It's true. I started gardening many years ago, and I'm always geeky about it. So I sent off soil samples and I got the best soil around, and there was nothing in it. There was nothing in it. There was hardly any minerals in it. So it was rebalancing, and there's just like hair testing, we can get our soil mineral rich in the right way. So it's that's what I think was going on there. Leslie, you were talking about how theirs was just like, you know, you had this little shrub and they had like, you know,
A jungle.
you know, and that's probably one of the reasons why is that they know what they're doing. And there are parts of the world that's what they do. They balance soil samples. Like we do hair testing, they do soil and
Well,
figure
let
it
me
out.
add, I'm going to add to that. They actually, because I really worked my soil a lot. I did a whole lot of stuff to it. I still didn't add, I already told you my pathetic results, but they've been at this for 10 years and experimenting and found that it was the compost was what really made the difference. So it's in the kitchen, they put into their compost, but they work it really well. And they're very gentle with how they work the soil. They won't dig it up because they don't want to disrupt the microbes. They just pitchfork it and barely work it and cover it in compost. They don't have to water very much because they're using that permaculture thought on the food, which is to cover the ground so that it stays moist. But my point there is that is with the food, but that's also with the mineral imbalances in our bodies. It takes time to get things growing right and correctly, right? It takes time. And just like with the soil, there are ways to test the mineral content there, and we test the mineral content in our bodies and see if there's a mismatch, if food's really doing it. And if you're somebody who's devoted to the thought that you're going to tackle this by food and food alone, contrary to our decades of experience here, you're still able to do that, but we would encourage you to do a test with your practitioner, a hair tissue mineral test, to see if what your belief is actually lines up with the facts.
Yeah, I've had some clients that are, you know, that started out that way, and we did hair test, and they did have some improvement with changing their food, of course, because they were eating foods that were causing inflammation, like wheat and other things. So when you clean up your diet, you are going to feel better. So, but it's a falsehood if you think that that's all you need to do. It's the starting point.
It's the starting point because there's those 3 stages of stress that we can talk about with, you know, analyzing a hair test. And the middle one is always resistance, right? So the resistance means you're creating hormones, the blood's carrying it to the cell, but the cell is so depleted and it's basically a corrupt cell. It's missing cell receptor sites. And so you have the hormone, but there's nowhere for the hormone to go. And that is due to the inflammation, the stress factor. People talk about stress. Stress is not whether or not I always say this, your husband knows about your boyfriend. That's called drama.
Right. Right.
Stress is the relationship of minerals and imbalances in your body and the level at which you are resistant to absorbing. So you could even have all this wonderful food and the right quantities, but if you're not getting rid of your stress levels internally, you can't absorb it. So it's a twofold process. It's a 1-2 punch, really. And the basics of it is having the nutrition. Once you have the nutrition, are you absorbing it?
Right. Yeah, that's a problem too.
Big one.
Opening up the pathways and getting things working again, you know, so it's a big process, but it's doable. I mean, as we're all 3 here telling you, we on one of our podcasts, we talked about our stories. All of us came from depleted, sick bodies, you know, so, and who knew, you know, that we'd be able to feel vibrant and good and have good energy and sleep good and be able to handle stress. I mean, come on, most people cannot do that now.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody just this morning about I had to defend my position in something the other day. Years ago, when I was depleted and newly diagnosed with chronic fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia. Let's go on. Let's the list. You know?
Say that 50 times fast, would you?
Right? Yeah. I'm just used to saying it now. It rattles.
Oh God, my eyes twitching when you said that. Michael, stop.
A lot of people find themselves there. It can be triggering for sure, but it's a thing of the past for me, which is why I can so easily just pop it up. That was a reality. And in that reality, I was unable to defend myself. I was unable, like if I had come across this position, this scenario that I had to deal with over the weekend back then, I would have let this person take advantage of me. So why be minerally balanced? So you can be balanced in every way. You can show up in your life. You can defend yourself if you need to. You can be, have a voice. If we weren't strong enough, we wouldn't be here having the energy to talk about all of this with you.
Right. Yeah, it takes energy to be able to do things. It takes like Eva's saying, it's when you don't have energy, people, I know I've worked with married couples, and one of them saying, well, I just don't think he cares anymore, and this and that, but I want to get him a hair test, and he was willing to do it. And well, one of the reasons why he might not be showing his affection is because you need energy. He's working long hours, he's working away from home, he's exhausted, he has health issues. So the last thing he has energy for is a fight or you know what I mean? Or an argument.
Yeah.
And we take it as, oh, they don't care anymore, or this is not working out. Well, that person's energy is so depleted, they can't stand up and tell you how they really feel. They don't have it.
We should do another episode on relationships and minerals and how they affect.
That's a great idea.
That's a really good one, because I know, I'm sure all of us have. I know my husband went through a lovely time with me.
I warn people, when you go through a copper detox, it feels like PMS on steroids. So warn your husband. That not so that he can point fingers at you, but so that you can both be observant.
Yeah.
Right, and not get angry too, because
that doesn't help.
Yeah, well, because you think you get defensive, but the person's just detoxing, and they bring up something from 30 years ago. Do you remember when you did that?
I wanted to, you mentioned something about the feeling low and how the body's looking for energy. And here's what I have found. I want to hear your thoughts, because I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I've had people who were addicted to junk food when they feel low, right? And that's the body. This is what I think it is. This is my theory. It's the body saying, it's like the little shadow self that says, hey, you don't have enough energy. I know you love those cookies, so crave the cookies until you eat them. We want that energy, and we're just looking for quick energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. We try to take care of it on our own, and our body gives us those cues. I know me, it was coffee. I drank 3 pots of coffee daily. So that little voice was a big voice, actually. Drink coffee, No,
You captive, sister. Oh,
it wasn't just a little voice. It was like shaking my house, Yeah, and I listened. Go get the coffee. Go get the coffee.
Don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. Yeah.
I drink coffee for your protection.
Yeah, people thought I had great energy, but without that coffee, I couldn't even get out of bed. I had to drink 3 cups of coffee just to be able to get up. My husband would bring me the coffee. Here's your coffee. And then I'm like, oh, another. So it became that your body it tries to help you, even though the messages might not be great.
It's doing the best it can. It's not just wanting to survive, but that's one thing. And people feel, I've heard this over and over again, is that thread of betrayal people feel when their body's not doing what they think it should, because they're eating healthy. I'm eating according to what they tell me I'm supposed to eat. Why am I not feeling better?
Yeah, it can be very frustrating.
An important question to address. That's important.
Yeah.
So they can understand. Yeah.
Right. They think they're doing everything right, and they aren't getting better. But they're probably missing a big piece. We know what that is, but with the hair testing and mineral balancing, that's like the major part. That's the big part, trying to, and the rest is us guessing, or our bodies giving us, just like Eva was saying, it's like a survival mechanism. You're like, oh, you have really low energy. And how do you get quick energy? Some people, it's loud music. Some people, it's fighting, arguing all the time, keeping everybody unhappy. I've seen that in our own family. Yeah. So these are things that people do, and it's not really who they are, but it's how they're surviving.
And it doesn't feel like a conscious action. It just feels more like it's normal. I used to have a secret chocolate stash, which was not a secret to anybody because I told them all about it. And I partook mostly. So, but I just crave chocolate. And I was like so embarrassing, and I wouldn't want to eat when my husband was around. It's just, I'm kind of ashamed of myself, but it's like I couldn't exist without the chocolate, and especially the caramel and the chewy and all that. And so
There's some goodness there, though.
Yeah, I know.
there you go. And then I thought maybe I could make a healthier version. Oh, I mean, I was really stretching it. But what I found out for myself was when I got my minerals balanced, I didn't crave that stuff anymore. I might enjoy a sweet treat now and again, but I wake up, my eyes are all crusty in the morning. I feel kind of low. It almost, I can taste, if it's sugar, I can taste the chemical processing now from the sugar. So it kind of burns. It's not very pleasant. And so people say, like my husband, okay, so he loved those little ho-hos, those little ho-ho things. Oh man, he was crazy about it. And I said, like I tell my clients, don't worry about it. You're going to make me give these up. I'm not making you give up anything. Just do me a favor and take your minerals. 3 doses a day. Just take 1 dose a day. I'll be happy. Well, pretty soon he worked his way up to 2 and 3. He was taking all the minerals he needed to, had no more sugar cravings. And that's how it is. So it's not about deprivation. It's about giving your body what it needs so it can let go of the addictions on its own. And I know this works really well for different people with severe addictions as well, either, chemical kind, liquid kind, all sorts, that once we get the minerals to balance, those cravings just aren't there. And I know, Heather, we talked about it before. It may still need some counseling to see whatever the social triggers are that make you go for those addictions in the first place. But there are all signs of mineral imbalances, and we just have forgotten how to listen to how to hear what our bodies are trying to tell us. We crave ho-hos and chocolate covered caramels.
Right.
Exactly. I hear this a lot after going through a consultation and working with people and auditing their diet, and they use the word restriction.
Right.
I'm restricting myself, and I have to back them off to, okay, let's make this less resistant. Continue doing what you're doing. Let's get you on the supplements first and let your body tell you what it wants to give up along the way. It's much more, it's just much more gentle than let's switch over to this new diet and burn ourselves out within 30 days and give up, right?
And quit. I mean, that's essentially what's going to happen, because I know I did not, when I started the program, I didn't quit coffee right away. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't even have been able to get my supplements organized. I want to be able to get up and put them in my little container, So, I started out, and I tell people, because people ask me, how did you start? You probably did everything and did it all right. No, I did not. And it took me a long time to do some things. And I was resistant the most about food. That would be a good talk of, when we do, even when we get them started on the program, some of the resistance, and it's quite normal.
Yeah.
It's normal because we're creatures of habit. We have our things that we do normally, and it becomes a routine, and we feel comfortable with that. And we think we have to have it. That's another thing too.
Mental, we get a mental connection, emotional connection, the physical need, draw. Yeah, it's all of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. That restriction feeds into our survival mechanism, the need to belong and the belonging of ourselves. I mean, it can be a very emotional and spiritual journey, especially if you've learned this from your environment, and I say environment loosely, your parents, whoever raised you, around family. You use food as a way to commune. I mentioned before, we have Thanksgiving coming up. How many of us are going to overeat?
Right.
Eat the thing that we haven't eaten in forever and mess up our body's like, what did you just do to me? And we have to overcome that. That's stress, that's trauma, that's like a car accident. So yeah, food is yes, it can be something that brings us together, but it can also be the detriment, the downfall of Rome. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And we don't want the program to be punishing. That's another thing. When you start talking about depriving, I can't do this, I can't do that, I know I'm doing a bad thing, you're already starting with self-beratement and punishment. That's not a way to heal.
No.
So we just want, if we can get you onto the supplements that your body says that you need, let's just start there. You know
Right.
what you need to get, you know what you want to get rid of eventually, but let your body help you let go of that. Because in the meantime, it's serving a purpose. We talked in a previous podcast about how some toxic metals will actually, the body will use toxic metals in place of the nutrient minerals. Just by way of brief example, it might use lead in the bones instead of calcium, right? And it needs that for a while. And until you can get things into balance, the lead can get removed and the calcium can go back in, you're going to do more harm than good by trying to force the lead out. Let your body decide. Same way with sugar or coffee or any of these things we're talking about. Those things have served a purpose. So now just get your body strong enough so you just no longer need that particular purpose to be served in that way anymore, and be kind to yourself.
Right.
And
And then
listen.
also know that you're going in the right direction. You're healing. That's
Yes.
something that people bring up to me. Well, if I'm not doing everything, the
Right.
whole program right away, and I'm not doing all this stuff that you've mentioned, I'm not going to get better. That's bogus, really.
It's a belief
You know?
system. It's a
Yeah.
belief, but it's not true and not based in fact. And that's a big thing. We kind of got to call that out, right? It's just a lie you believe. It's got nothing to do with the facts.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's okay to have those thoughts. It's being gentle with yourself in a way that you're not used to, because I really want to bring this up on one of our future podcasts as we're wrapping this one up. I'm thinking about how what you're mentioning here and beating ourselves up and not having compassion, all of that is a lack of self-love. Yeah, an unconditional self-love means being compassionate for this process and allowing for the body. And I find that missing piece is the thread that's common between all of my clients. They would rather sacrifice themselves, thinking that they're being a good Christian, and therefore, if I sacrifice myself, then that means I'm a good person. But it ends up bringing the shame, the guilt, all of that goes with not doing enough to be accepted or whatever by family or even by yourself. And I think that's an important thread to remember. It's like this work is the ultimate in self-love.
That's
It
right.
really is. It is. And I know I've come from a place of not feeling like good enough and always working towards being better, constantly helping and all the time not taking care of myself. So that's definitely not self-love. Yeah.
And that thinking is a symptom of mineral imbalances, but we don't think of our thoughts as symptoms of imbalances.
Right.
It's just all connected. That'd be a great topic, Eva.
Yeah, I'd love to dig in on that one. Just
Big one.
well, people, you mentioned addictions, and the body starts to be it is in control, right? It's in control of our mind. The gut microbiome takes over sometimes. It's like, hey, I like those cookies, right? So the same thing happens with addiction of processing. People don't think of processing, overthinking something is a sign of addiction. I've got to come to this right decision. I've got to think this through until until you're exhausted. So how we use our energy is just as important as where we get it from. And I think we've busted a lot of myths today about how we get our minerals and how we're just no longer can get them from our food. We would literally run out of energy if we ate all the food we needed to in order to get the minerals we need.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's
Right.
Like eating, you'd be like, no, can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the amounts you'd have to eat, just
Yeah.
tables and tables full. It's still not enough,
And isn't this how you can be hungry and obese and full?
Right. Exactly. Because you keep getting those empty calories, those calories that really don't give you anything except for calories. So they just go to the fat and you still feel hungry. I don't know who that was. It was somebody had a client that he was in a foster home, and then he got overly obese, and they ended up switching homes for whatever reason. And he was eating really good. The people that ended up adopting him, she made everything homemade, and just, it wasn't, because before he was getting tons of junk food, everything homemade. And so he started losing weight. He was eating more, or eating the same amounts, and he just lost all this weight. And it was just because he was getting real nutrients, and he wasn't starving anymore because he was finding some of it,
Yeah. So it's not a simple subject, is it?
No.
And that's why we can't be in control of it. We have to give up some of that power and control to our bodies and trust it,
Yes.
and learn to be at one with it, really. Yeah. It can be very mysterious, but if we just trust our bodies, it can lead us to the right place. Yeah.
And a sense of peace.
Yeah.
No more of that torment, just peace.
Exactly. That's a nice place to be.
And I think that's the perfect place to end our topic today.
Yes, I like it. Calming.
So this has been, I'm Eva Vennari, founder of the Elevate Institute, known for helping to reverse adrenal burnout in the everyday professional.
And I'm Dr. Heather Kneale, CEO and founder of Global Nutritional Healing.
And Leslie Brown, creator of the stress relief system for high achieving men.
And this has been The Perfect Balance, where we discover your symptoms are not the problem. We shall see you next time.
Bye.